Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Rachel Williams begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The anxious wait is over tonight for hundreds of residents in Zeehan and Rosebery on the state's west coast. Both towns were evacuated yesterday as fire crews desperately tried to fight a nearly 4,000 hectare bushfire that was bearing down on the towns.
Saved from Mother Nature's fury. Hundreds of lives were at risk yesterday when a raging, out-of-control bushfire came within just kilometres of threatening Zeehan.
We've been here 12 years. We had fires here a couple of years ago which got close to town but never come to this stage.
The town was issued with an emergency bushfire warning, with crews up against walls of flames like this. Many rushed to evacuate, fleeing the town. Those that stayed were prepared to fight.
The top end of town has been advised to evacuate. We're currently door knocking and advising people that the approaching fire has potential to impact the town sometime this afternoon.
But by the afternoon, the winds had changed direction, pushing the blaze down the valley towards Rosebery. Fire crews quickly responded, evacuating as many homes there as they could. But late last night, rain covered the town as residents breathed a sigh of relief. This morning, a calmness had set in as residents returned to their homes.
Quite a few were worried, but then there were the ones that we'll wait and see. You know, we'll go when we're told to.
I was with some friends who lived just up the road from me, and yeah, that was all fine. A couple of their wives went over to Tulla and thought they'd be a bit safer.
Tonight, the bushfire is no longer a threat to either town and has moved north into rugged bushland. Both, though, remain on a watch and act alert.
The discussions I've had with the management teams to date indicate that they are less concerned about the impact to community and critical infrastructure in that location, but they're still monitoring it.
A positive outcome to a day that could have been so much worse. Jessica Moran, 7 Tasmania News.
Fire authorities are warning Tasmania isn't out of the woods yet, with several communities still under extreme fire risk. In the Central Highlands today, crews work to strengthen containment lines, with some borders in the area under threat.
Tearing down the thick vegetation surrounding Penstock Lagoon, crews working around the clock to minimise the very real and ongoing threat.
The idea is the bulldozer follows the fire edge and we come along behind and knock that down as it goes, and certainly trying to stop the fire from burning into heavy fuels.
Normally full of boats and anglers, the popular fishery today eerily quiet as the entire Central Highlands area remains on high alert.
There are several communities, smaller communities, farming communities to the south of the fire now that are predominantly still under threat. We have no active edge on that fire at all.
With more than 100 personnel spread out, battling a multitude of spot fires, crews faced a difficult and ever-changing dilemma of where to focus their energies.
We've had no further reports of property loss other than that Scooter Wall Plains household that we lost several days ago. There's some great work done by crews in and around properties. We have some contingency plans to try and restrict any travel of this fire into the World Heritage Area.
The Great Lake community banding together to help make the situation more bearable for those on the front line.
Most of the locals have gone since we've been all evacuated, but there's been a little troop of little army that have stayed here and helped us.
I can't thank community enough for being so tight-knit and working together. All the organisations, donations, food.
Yesterday, hot weather and strong winds made life very difficult for crews around here, but today there is some relief. Winds are light and temperatures have dropped right off, so for the next couple of days, crews will make the most of these conditions as things are expected to pick up again during the week. Property owners urged to monitor conditions over the coming days and be ready to evacuate if necessary.
Total containment, that's a bit of an unknown at this point in time. I mean, in reality, we're going to be on this fire for several weeks, if not months, if we don't get any rainfall to assist us.
Tom Cooper, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmania Fire Service says despite today's milder conditions, communities in the southwest could still be at risk. Last night, the area was under serious threat as the blaze edged dangerously close to Geeveston.
Last night there was some erratic fire behaviour in the Geeveston and Terhune area with ember attack impacting those areas. and a significant amount of effort's gone into protecting that environment.
Meanwhile, authorities are outraged over a cigarette butt which caused a small fire in Fortescue Bay yesterday.
It serves as a reminder that people must be sensible. We're still in the middle of a total fire ban period, and something as small as a cigarette butt carelessly discarded can have catastrophic consequences.
Thankfully, crews extinguished the fire just moments after it was lit. As our emergency service workers fight tirelessly to save parts of the state facing the threat of bushfires, some of their own have been recognised with Australia Day honours. Also among those celebrated, long-term volunteers and sports mentors.
An unusual quiet moment in a week of chaos for Tasmania Fire Service Chief Officer. Today recognised for his 34-year career in the service and his commitment to his colleagues and community.
I did come to here this morning and I thought, wow, what a wonderful honour. And I did think about my wife and how much support and how wonderful she's been throughout my career.
Also recognised a 38-year volunteer at Wattle Hill Brigade with a passion for prevention. Honoured for teaching the community about fuel reduction practices.
Because it basically safeguards the communities. Mostly we've got all of our bush burning done by November. And we've done that for 50 odd years, yeah, and it makes it safe.
Bernie Scott Clark has volunteered for almost 4 decades at different brigades, now dedicated to sharing his knowledge he's gained with the younger generation.
Very, very surprised, very humbled and very honoured to receive such an esteemed award, yeah.
Phil Pike, a lifetime volunteer and worker at a raft of organisations, is driven to advocate for those on the front line. The 55-year-old also passionate about supporting those experiencing mental health issues.
There's always that challenge about they're not actually recognising the symptoms of what they're experiencing.
Another one of our own, assisting after some of the world's most devastating tragedies. Constable Tanya Curtis receiving an Australian Police Medal for her contribution to forensics at home and abroad.
The first disaster I attended was Port Arthur. I also was invited to work in Bali after the Bali bombings, and I worked in New Zealand after the earthquakes. It's probably one of the toughest jobs that you will do.
Sergeant Rodney Stacey celebrated for his diverse work in policing and mentorship for new recruits.
I've enjoyed every different position that I've worked in, not just the work that I do, but the people that I work with.
A Tasmanian Olympian in his element, still teaching at the local pool 6 days a week. Peter Tonkin honoured this Australia Day for his unrelenting service to the swimming community spanning decades.
Well, swimming was good to me. You know, it opened a lot of doors and gave me heaps of opportunities. And I just think I'd like to give something back into the sport.
These people just some of the many Tasmanians recognised for their outstanding contributions to our country. All those honoured, humbled and helping to make Australia and Tasmania a safer, richer place. Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
Many Tasmanians spent Australia Day outside despite smoky conditions. Hundreds of new citizens were welcomed at events across the state as others took to the water.
Taking to the skies to mark our National Day of celebration. Locals in Kingston ignoring the smoke and hitting the beach, remaining true to an Australian tradition.
Look, it's an Australia Day tradition. You've got to come down to Kingston. There's just so much going on, lots of things for the kids to do.
Just means have fun with your friends, go out in the warm weather.
Just have fun with family and friends, get out and about and yeah, just have some good fun.
And while some took to the sand, others celebrated becoming an Australian at ceremonies across the state. Tasmanians of all ages taking the oath at Launceston's Albert Hall.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
Whose democratic beliefs I share. Acquiring Australian citizenship enables people to participate fully in our inclusive society, realise aspirations and achieve their full potential.
Citizenship pledges also taking place at Sandy Bay's 171st Regatta, as thousands soaked up the sun and set sail along the shoreline.
Lots of young children getting out there on the water in the dinghies for the very first time, which is part of the mantra of our event and creating a family fun regatta.
Meanwhile, it was all action in Latrobe for the Hensley on Mersey duathlon. competitors between the ages of 7 and 90, racing, biking and sprinting in the sun. Spending a day with mates to celebrate being an Australian. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, those opposed to celebrating Australia Day gathered on Hobart's Parliament lawns, hundreds rallying to change the date. Labelled as Invasion Day, the Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre says January 26 is offensive and is a barrier to reconciliation. The annual protest bringing opposing political parties together, with supporters including Green Senator Nick McKim and Liberal Speaker of the House, Sue Hickey.
Welcome back. After yesterday's heat, temperatures were back down around average today. Hobart reached a top of 22 degrees. It was 28 in Launceston and 25 in Burnie. Cressy had the state's top temp of 29 degrees today. Ouse, Friendly Beaches and Smithton all 25, Grove 24, St Helens 23, 22 the top for Lyowini and Low Head, and it was 21 on the islands. To the skies, and low-level clouds sat over the west and central parts of the state today, with some smoke plumes visible. Zooming out, more smoke can be seen in Victoria, with a mid-level cloud band extending across lower central parts of the mainland. The monsoon trough extends over northern Australia, with tropical cyclone Riley off the northwest coast of WA. Tomorrow, the cold fronts will move to the east of Tasmania, with another weaker front approaching from the west. That monsoon trough will continue to dominate, and Riley will slowly move west. On the coast, west to northwesterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, increasing to 30 knots through the day, swells to 4 metres in the west and south. And I've got a few things to warn you about. A gale warning for southern coastal waters between Tasman Island and Low Rocky Point tomorrow, a strong wind warning between Stanley and Wineglass Bay, as well as from Low Rocky Point to Sandy Cape. A small craft wind alert for the lakes, and just a reminder that the Tasmanian Fire Service has declared a statewide total fire ban, which will remain in place until 2 a.m. Monday. It'll be partly cloudy in Hobart tomorrow with a top of 24, the same for Ouse, Richmond 25. Launceston expecting some wind, 25 the top there. Devonport partly cloudy, also with a bit of wind, 23 degrees. Deloraine 22. 23 the top for Burnie, partly cloudy with some wind expected. Strawn 21. Curry on King Island with some showers and wind. St Helens partly cloudy and 26. A mostly sunny day for Swansea tomorrow, nice and warm, 28 degrees. Whitemark 23. UV very high over most parts and extreme over Launceston and St Helens. Moving ahead to Monday now, a fine day to end the long weekend, apart from some light showers about the west, some warmer temperatures in the southeast of the state. Tuesday, light showers about the west but fine elsewhere, and Wednesday, fine apart from some late afternoon showers in the east and evening rain in the north. Now looking at the big map for tomorrow, showers and storms for Darwin, a cloudy day for Sydney and Brisbane, Perth sunny, Adelaide mostly sunny, and a partly cloudy day for Melbourne with a top of 25 degrees. And finally, let's take a look at the current conditions. That's all for today's Weather H. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Britt. Well, that's all your news for now. Thanks for joining us. Good night.